Prehistoric Kingdom has finally arrived. After 7 long years in development, the spiritual successor to the critically acclaimed Tycoon game Jurassic Park Operation Genesis has, at long last, reached early access. Despite their very rough start back in 2015, the developers kept focused on their mission to deliver a prehistoric park builder that the community deserves. Unlike a certain game, but now that it has been released, is the game any good? Welcome to Dino-Meter. Today we will review the long-awaited Dinosaur Tycoon game Prehistoric Kingdom. A huge thank you to my Patreon supporters for supporting the channel and enabling me to create content like this. More info on this in the end. Also a massive thank you to Creativo for sending me a review copy of the game. Truly appreciated. Also keep in mind that the product I'm about to review is currently in early access. Everything seen and discussed here can change in the future. Now with that out of the way, let's begin. Prehistoric Kingdom is a tycoon/park building game heavily inspired by massive staples of the genre like Zoo Tycoon, Planet Coaster, and Jurassic Park Operation Genesis. The premise is very simple. Here's a map, here's some money, build a park at your heart's content, and reach the 5-star rating. The way you get to the final score is up to you. Creativity and ingenuity is at the core of the genre, and in Prehistoric Kingdom, that philosophy reaches its maximum potential with the modular system, where you can build and decorate anything, anywhere, any way you want. You can add components to already existing buildings, change their size, location, type of material, color. It has a multitude of shapes that can be manipulated in order to create any kind of building or structure you desire. It is an extraordinary system that enables players to build with true freedom. Creative players, that is, and you will have plenty of time and space to build the parks of your dreams, because the maps in this game are absolutely massive. On normal playthroughs, players will never feel restricted. At launch there are 3 map locations to choose from: United Kingdom, Spain, and Costa Rica. Each map has its own color grading and ambient lighting, making each session unique to a certain extent. Fortunately, we are not limited to the map's default biome when creating our enclosures. Once it's time to start building the areas where our lovely creatures are going to live on, we have a vast range of components across 6 distinct biomes, from trees to rocks, grass, types of landscape, types of water, and much more, all of which can be mixed and matched with no restrictions. The park customization is by far the best aspect of Prehistoric Kingdom, an extremely robust and deep system that allows players to create their parks with absolute freedom, being imagination their only limitation. Other parts of the game, however, aren't so easy to appreciate. To start, the game's performance leaves much to be desired. Despite loading times being acceptable, in-game the frames are consistently lower than expected. Don't get me wrong, the graphical quality is on par with the competition and worth being praised, especially knowing that this was made by an indie dev team. However, the graphics are not that great to be worth having the FPS below 60 for the majority of the playthrough, an issue that only gets worse the bigger the park becomes. Even though it is to be expected to lose performance over time, starting up with as low as 40 frames a second without having anything built yet is a major problem that needs to be addressed. Another aspect that requires some adjustment is the UI. Prehistoric Kingdom is a complex game, especially when it comes to building. Players can easily become overwhelmed with the exposure of so much customizability, and the user interface can help alleviate that initial impact. Unfortunately, that is not the case. More often than not, the UI actually makes it worse and more unnecessarily complicated than it should. There is an excess of layers, forcing the player to click multiple buttons in order to do simple tasks. For example, incubating eggs, one of the core pillars of the game, is not at the bottom of the screen alongside everything else important. Instead, it's on the left side of the screen, where the logistics are. Not only that, it's not even there directly. You need to press this button here, and do you see this button? This very, very tiny button. That's the incubation button. In addition, several prop categories are in places that don't make much sense. For example, rocks are mostly used while creating landscapes, so it's safe to assume that they should be located in landscapes. You know, where everything about landscapes is, but it's not. It's in this random location instead. Fortunately, the game possesses a fairly decent tutorial, teaching new players the basics, and once you get the hang of it, navigating through the menus is much smoother. Not to mention that some UI elements are very much appreciated, like the time and weather system being very easy to manipulate, an extremely convenient tool when you want to take those gorgeous screenshots at dawn without the pesky weather. Another major element of every Tycoon game is the guests, the blood of the business. Keeping them happy and satisfied is essential for your park's success, and Prehistoric Kingdom is no exception. However, the guests... yeah, they are not that great. The logistics and systems are there. You won't have a thriving park if you don't build the necessary infrastructure to entertain your guests and get that sweet monthly revenue. But despite that, the visual feedback of the guests themselves is lackluster to say the least. There are significant pathfinding issues. They don't interact with anything. They get stuck in random places. Hell, they don't even have sound effects. Their main purpose is well done, but all these flaws heavily break immersion while playing. Also related to guests are the attractions, which sadly there's only one type, the viewing gallery. You can make it in any way you want, but there's only one. No vehicles, no tours, only viewing galleries. But who cares about the guests, am I right? We are here for the dinosaurs. Prehistoric Kingdom brings to life 23 extinct creatures. Not only dinosaurs, but also prehistoric mammals. The models are absolutely astonishing, with great detail, solid skins, following the most recent paleontological discoveries, focusing on immersion and realism above all else, but this time done right. They go as far as giving players the option of having both feathered and unfeathered versions of specific species which are uncertain of being covered with feathers or not. A great move from the developers. Each species possesses multiple subspecies with its own color pattern and sometimes size, with most of them also having sexual dimorphism, which is a neat touch. Not only that, even specimens of the same species show significant visual differences in size and color tone/saturation. Even though such differences are not extreme, this dynamic enhances immersion while building our parks. They are not clones of each other anymore. They are unique living beings. In addition, the game supports a large amount of creature existing simultaneously, easily reaching the hundreds of specimens if you don't pay attention to it. Just keep in mind that at a certain point, performance will be affected by it, although surprisingly their impact is not that heavy compared to other aspects of the game. And the icing on the cake. The dinosaur's description is narrated by none other than Nigel Marven.
Protoceratops. This animal is one of the smaller species of ceratopsians, living alongside deadly neighbours like the velociraptor.
God bless this man. He often delivers some insightful information about the specific dinosaur we selected, showcasing both humor and accurate info, making this a decent educational tool for newcomers. Unfortunately, as of right now, even the creatures themselves share some issues that worsen the overall experience. For starters, despite the hatchery existing in the game and being fully customizable, the dinosaurs actually don't come from there. In fact, they don't come from anywhere at all. They just... It's really immersion breaking and just odd, in all honesty. Even though the animals are animated extremely well, their behaviors are extraordinarily limited. They interact with the world around them pretty well, grazing, laying down resting, roaming around, but when it comes to interacting with each other, it's a different story. They don't interact with one another at all. They even clip through each other constantly. There's no cohesion, no herds are made, nor packs. There's no hierarchy, there's no conflict, no hunting, not even combat. In fact, the animals don't need anything at all. So I made a test. I put these two fellows into an extremely small enclosure with no food nor water, and I left them be for around 2 days. Do you know what happened? Exactly. Absolutely nothing. The metrics were still there. The enclosure had a terrible score and was being way more expensive than lucrative. But we don't necessarily see the profit or the logistics, we see the dinosaurs, and on these conditions, they feel extremely fake. Fortunately, all these issues presented until now are momentary. With the game releasing in early access, further development is already planned for the short and long term, and seeing the dev team's transparency with their community posts, it is safe to say that the game has a bright and expansive future. However, this review is not about the future of the game, it's about how the game is right now. And currently, at this moment, there are multiple titles that offer more content and a better, more complete gameplay experience. And with that in mind, I will give Prehistoric Kingdom a 60%. It has a very solid foundation, it is unique compared to its competition, it has the absolute best modular building system ever made in the Tycoon game, but despite that, it lacks a lot of content, major features are missing, it is unpolished, and some major performance improvements are needed. But like I mentioned previously, it is in early access, so changes, improvements, and updates are expected. Being cheaper than its competition helps, and with a bigger roster, adding animal behavior, and some additional features added, the game will possibly surpass other titles in the genre. But as of right now, Prehistoric Kingdom is more of an investment for the future rather than current instant entertainment and gratification. Buy it at your own risk, or wait for a sale just to play safe. A huge thank you to my Patreon supporters for supporting the channel and keeping it running. If you want to join the ranks, the link will be in the description. Join our Discord for memes and paleo nerd stuff, and I hope to see you on my next video. Stay safe.